If you're a lightweight mobile hunter, I'm going to show you everything you need to kill a deer and nothing more. If I have a piece of hunting gear that's not going to help me kill a deer, it stays in the car or it stays at home. Here's the bottom line. In most cases, you don't need as much gear as you think. Let me show you what I take on the hunt. You'll be surprised at what I don't need to kill a deer. So as you can see right here, I can fit all the things I need to kill a deer right on this table. And I don't have anything here that's not going to help me get the job done. I have my bow, of course, your weapon, my saddle. You can replace that with a stand. That can be a climber, hang-on stand, whatever you use to stay in a tree safely. And with that, of course, my ropes and these little haulers here that I use to stay in the tree. Climbing methods, sticks, you can have steps. Then of course my backpack, and there's sometimes I don't even need my backpack. It depends on what season it is. So for example, in late season, I'm going to need a heavier coat in here, which is why I use this basically from middle October through the rest of the season. So in this backpack, there's every single thing I need. And the only reason I have a backpack right now this time of year is because it's getting colder. But in early season, when I don't need warmer clothes, I leave this in the car as well. Every single thing I put in here, I'm going to lay out on the table and explain to you exactly why I need it and why it's going to help me kill a deer. So everything you see here on the table fits in my backpack with room to spare. There's nothing on here that's not going to help me kill a deer. And when I go through all this stuff, you might say, hey, how does that actually help you kill a deer? It actually does. You'd be surprised. So for example, these knee pads right here. If I didn't have knee pads, I wouldn't be able to sit in the tree as long, especially being a saddle hunter. So I purchased these small knee pads and they keep me comfortable for a longer period of time. If this means that I stay in the woods for an extra hour, then that means that I have an extra hour where I can potentially see a deer. Moving on up here, these are my straps for my sticks. Early season, I keep them in my pockets, but if it's late season, I need a backpack because of my jacket. I simply put them in the backpack because why not? I'm taking it into the woods anyway. This is always the one that people wonder about, and this is simply a pill bottle. And no, I don't bring pills into the woods, I promise. And inside of it is milkweed, and this is simply for scent control. On the way into the stand, I release this a couple times. It blows with the wind and it tells you which direction your scent is blowing. I keep it in this because that's how I got it. Some people have it in other little devices. Some people have it in little coin collectors, the rubber coin collectors. They make things now where you can attach it to your zipper on your jacket, just pull it out as you're walking in. I use this because it keeps it dry and I have no reason not to, basically. So if I release this, my wind is blowing that way, goes off into the distance. So it just basically tells me where to go and where not to go so deer don't get my wind and I don't screw up my hunt for that evening or morning. So I keep that in there. I would like to use a smaller container, but it's really not the end of the world. Moving on to this part, this is super important. It is a bit bulky, but it gets the job done. And I'm more about condensing things rather than worrying about weight. It is pretty heavy, but it's heavy duty ratchet strap that when you use to put on your ring of steps around the tree that I can work my feet on. This gives me access to shooting my bow on any side of the tree or rifle during gun season. And there's a way to hold this quietly back in here with your finger, and you can ratchet it much quieter. It's not as loud as you think. And just like always, take your time. Never be in a rush. So I use that as well. That gets tucked up into my bag. This is an optional item I bring into the woods. These binoculars, they're really nice. I appreciate them. But where I go into the woods, I've usually already been, and I can't really see a long distance anyway. Sometimes I only have 2 shooting lanes and thick cover. These aren't going to do any good in a really thick tamarack marsh or anything like that. So I just like to keep these in the bag just in case. Maybe walking in with them, I can use them, or if I'm in a little bit of more of an open area. But most of the places I have scouted anyway, I usually don't get too surprised at where the deer come from, and I can't see very far to begin with, so I only take these if I'm going into a spot I'm less familiar with, or maybe on a scouting trip in and out of the stand. Right here you have a little tiny rubber gear tie, and these things are really nice to have. You can never have too many of these. This one in particular is used for holding my quiver onto my gear strap that wraps around the tree so that I can hold the quiver on the tree rather than keeping on my bow during the hunt. You simply just fold it over quiver. It works really well. It's a really great addition. You can never have too many of one one thing in the woods, it would be gear ties in my opinion. Next we have a compass, and this compass is super important. The reason why this compass is super important is because sometimes my cell phone might die if the battery drains, especially in colder weather. This has a thermometer on, which I never use, but one thing I do think is very useful, unfortunately if you need it, is this whistle right here. I hope that I never need to use this whistle, but if something happens where I'm lost or I break my leg, fall out of a stand, and I can't crawl back or I can't get back to safety, I am gonna have to blow this whistle and hopefully somebody can come find me. And it's a really good method to have this in addition to your phone. I use OnX on my phone, that's another thing, but I don't put that in my backpack. I have that in my coat pocket, so that's why it's not on this table. Just a little side note, I do have a portable cell phone charger that's solar powered, but I charge it before I get there. If I'm going back in a place where I know that it's a far distance and my cell phone battery dies, then I basically just plug it into there and at least I have power on my cell phone. Moving on, I've got this light. It's a really basic Energizer $30 light from Walmart, but let me tell you, this thing is really bright. It's got a super bright light, got a red light, and it's got a dimmed light. So if you don't want to scare those deer early in the morning when you're walking into your stand, using the dimmed light is a really good option. Kind of keeps your profile down. But if you're scouting for deer and you want a really bright light, use the main beam here, and that's going to really help in addition to any other flashlight you might bring back into the woods for scouting. Then of course I have my heavy coat that's waterproof, obviously windproof then too, and that's what I put on once I get up in the stand. Once I'm tethered into the tree with my saddle and I'm ready to go, I simply take out the jacket, put it on, and I'm ready to go for the hunt, regardless of the cold weather or not. Now there's two things in particular I plan on adding to my backpack that won't take up a lot of space or weight: rangefinder and a grunt call. Pretty important. Now this is when it gets real. I've seen many YouTube videos and it just kind of makes me laugh a little bit. Not that these people are bad hunters or they're bad people or I have anything against them, because I really don't. But I've looked at YouTube videos for ideas on how to be really smart and tactical about bringing in the right gear to kill a deer. And I was amazed at some of the stuff I found. And I'm not going to link the videos in the description. I'm not going to shout out YouTube channels or names, but this list might surprise you with some of the things I've seen people take out of their backpacks and recommend to their viewers to take into the woods to go hunting. Check it out. Now, are these things necessarily bad? No. Are they necessarily good? I don't know, maybe. But the truth is, they're just not necessary. That's a question that I'm always asking myself. What do I need to kill a deer? That means you put an arrow through it and the deer dies. I don't worry about what I need to take to gut out the deer, how I'm going to get the deer out of the woods. That happens if I shoot a deer. And given the fact I have 2 tags and I hunt a lot throughout the season, there aren't going to be that many times when I shoot a deer anyway, and I'm just blessed if I get an opportunity to do that. And in these videos that I'm talking about, they call them YouTube gear dump videos, where they literally take their pack and they dump it upside down. It spreads on a table. It looks all impressive because they have all this gear that they're pushing on you and products and stuff. But really, it's not going to help you actually become a better hunter. People just like to push products, and I don't want you to be fooled by that. Just because a TV commercial or a YouTube ad says, if you're not using this, you're not going to see deer. If you're not using this, deer are going to wind you. There's a difference between using good gear and using the gear that you need. Now, I'm not criticizing you or anyone else for taking extra gear. We all want to be comfortable. Maybe you need extra hand warmers because it's really cold where you live. Maybe you need an extra jacket even in addition to the one you bring. Maybe you need some kind of technology like some kind of GPS or something because a cell phone's not going to work for you. I get it. There's always exceptions to the rule. This is a very general video just saying that you don't need as much as people are going to tell you you need. A lot of people I've seen hunt, they bring these huge packs in addition to their big stands with their heavy sticks and then their little tiny light 3.5 pound bow. Why do you need all that stuff just to walk in off the road and get up a tree to shoot a deer? You don't. If you went back to the car in that situation and you looked at every single thing you used during that hunt, you'd be like, huh, I didn't use any of this stuff in my backpack. Just like 2 items, 3 items. And that's kind of where I came to this conclusion a long time ago. Use what you need, not just something that you want to bring because it makes the hunt a little more comfortable. Now on all day sits, there's going to be times when you need to bring in food. I get it. So what I've done is I put 2 plastic drawers in the back of my vehicle. And in those drawers, I simply store things that I don't need for the hunt. And I have 1 drawer for my clothes and one drawer for gear, and that's it. Then around those drawers, of course, I keep my bow, my saddle, my climbing sticks, my backpack, and so when I get to the place, it's already set to go. By the time I leave my house, I grab my backpack, my sticks, my bow, my saddle sometimes is on, and I just get out in the woods. I'm not in the parking lot for 20 minutes prepping or getting ready. I just go. I suppose some of you are wondering, well, Corey, if you shoot a deer, how are you going to get it out? How are you going to gut it? What are you going to drag it with? And that's a different scenario, because the title of this video is, "This is what you need to kill a deer." And there's a big difference between what it takes to kill a deer and what it takes to get the deer out of the woods after it's been shot. So here's what I have to say about that. When you shoot a deer, obviously wait till it's dead. Hopefully it is. Hopefully it's a clean shot. Locate the deer. And then before you do anything else, maybe you need to gut it out because it's warm or whatever, but in most cases you don't have to immediately. After you locate the deer, walk back to your car. Take all of your stuff with you. Take your backpack, climbing method, your saddle, your stand, your weapon, your bow, your rifle. Just get it all back to the car. That way, when you get back to the car, drink some water, rehydrate yourself. It's a good tip, by the way, always keep some water in your car. Maybe have a snack, a granola bar or something. Call a buddy, call a friend and say, hey, can you meet me at this parking lot and help me get the deer out? So that's gonna benefit you as well. Rest up a little bit. Maybe change your boots into something lighter. Take off that heavy coat, and that way you're ready to go. And at the same time, in the drawers that I have in my vehicle, and maybe you have a bag in yours or whatever method you use, grab your gutting gloves, your gutting knife, and any other materials you're gonna need to gut the deer, clean it up, and get it out back to your car. And that's also an opportunity to grab a sled if it's the winter or you're in a marsh, or even a deer cart and pull it out. If you have the mentality of what does it take to kill a deer, not what does it take to kill a deer and get it out of the woods, you're gonna be able to go a lot farther. I've spoke with people who've said to me, I don't want to hunt that location because I don't know if I can get a deer out of there and my tree stand. It's like, okay, well then I'll go back there, because if you don't want to go back in the hard to reach area, I'm going to, because I think that's a pretty sweet spot. Okay, so here's the big one. Before I leave the house, I always make sure I have these 3 things, and it might seem obvious to you, but there's been times when I've forgotten one of these 3 things and I basically can't hunt in most situations. The first thing I always make sure I have is my bow. The second thing I always make sure I have is my saddle. The third thing I always make sure I have are my climbing sticks. Without those 3 things, it's almost impossible to hunt, unless I plan on doing a ground setup, which that can work too. And I get it, not everybody hunts like me. Maybe you're just a rifle hunter with a hang-on stand. Okay, well then, your first thing instead of a bow is a rifle. And maybe you don't use a saddle. I get it, a lot of people don't use saddles. That's just started catching on the past couple of years. If you don't use a saddle but you use a climber, well then that's your number 2 thing. If you have climbing steps, or you've got screw-in steps, if the land you hunt on allows it, well that's your number 3, that's your climbing method. So I could summarize it a little bit better in a general way by saying you need your weapon, you need whatever it is that keeps you up in the tree, and you need whatever it is that can get you up the tree. Those 3 things are the staples. Everything else is extra. You can kill a deer with just those 3 things. And then what I showed you from my backpack, that was just a little bit extra stuff, because that jacket's going to keep me warmer. The ring of steps are going to give me more access to different angles of shots. And the milkweed's going to help me kill a deer because it determines where I can go, where the deer might be getting my scent from. The gear tie is going to help me stay organized, keep my quiver off my bow. That just gives me a little bit more space, a little bit more shooting room. So all of those things won't get me the deer, but they're going to help get me the deer. Carrying gutting gloves and wet wipes and 3 grunt calls in your backpack, that's not going to help you kill a deer. What's going to help you kill a deer is being in the right place, scouting, and taking exactly what you need and nothing more. Alright guys, thanks for hanging out with me for a little bit. As you can see, I'm pretty passionate about what you take in the woods and why it matters. I just had so many experiences, and I've had so many conversations with people that are adamant on taking these huge packs into the woods, and then they go and sit 100 feet off the parking lot and see nothing. I'm like, what are you doing? I just don't want to see people kind of screwing themselves up. I just want to help people, and that's my passion, is helping you. So take care. I feel blessed to be able to do this for everybody. Thank you for watching, supporting this channel. Till next time, see you later. Bye-bye.